Alright, Math 1052 students, I'm going to do another Unit 3 video lesson on Markup Markdown. This time it's on the On C, what I call the On C questions. That is, if you're given a Markdown Markup problem with limited dollar value information, and let's say you're only given the dollar value for C, but you're given P, E, M, some combination of these elements of a selling price as percentages on C or of cost, then this is the procedure that you need to follow. If you have on S questions, which are markup markdown questions with very limited dollar value information, but P, E, M, the values, the components of selling price as percentages of S, then there's a different procedure, and I'll post that procedure in the description box of this video. Okay, let's do the problem. So this is from number 9 of the Unit 3 review. A wholesaler listed a printer for $150 with trade discounts of 15% and 10%. Tyler purchased this printer and showcased it for sale in his computer store. His overhead expenses are 30% of the cost, and his desired profit is 25% of the cost. To clear the item, he offered a markdown of 20%. That means he is holding a sale in order to clear his inventory of these items. So he's selling it at a discount. All right, so let's start. All right, the first thing we need to do is fill up the merchandising table with all the given information, with all the knowns, and then we gradually fill up the table in order to answer the questions step by step. Okay, so let's start with the first part of the question. So a wholesaler listed a printer for $150 with trade discounts of 15% and 10%. Okay, so essentially this first sentence suggests that Tyler, who's the retailer, is sourcing the products from a wholesaler at a discount. So this $150 is not the selling price. This $150 is the price at which the retailer purchases the products, so that he or she, in this case Tyler, can sell the products to the end consumer, and he's enjoying a discount from the trade system of 15 and 10%. Okay, so we need to use from our trade discount lessons the net price equation, which is net price equals list price 1 minus the first discount multiplied by 1 minus the second discount. If there's a third discount, you multiply that by 1 minus the third discount. In this case, there's only 2 discounts. Right, so what we're doing here is we're essentially calculating the cost to the retailer of the product so that he or she can resell it to his or her end consumer. All right, so we're really calculating for cost. Okay, so now we plug in L, that's $150 because that's the list price that the wholesaler would charge the retailer if there weren't any discounts, so that's $150. 1 minus the first discount of 15%, put that in decimal form. 1 minus the second discount, 10%, put that in decimal form. Okay. Now we calculate this number here, so that'll be 150 multiplied by 0.85, because that's 1 minus 0.15 equals 0.85 multiplied by 0.99. That's 1 minus 0.1. Okay, now we do this math. We multiply 85 by 0.9. 0.85 multiplied by 0.9 equals 0.765 multiplied by 150. Okay, so I just put 150 here, on the calculator to get the cost, which equals 114.75. Okay, so this goes as a positive value in C here as a component of selling price, and as a negative value here as a component of reduced profit. Okay, so what else do we know? We know that overhead expenses are 30% of the cost, so we go to overhead expense and put 30% of the cost here. Overhead expense, it's 30% of the cost or 30% on cost. We know the profit is 25% of the cost. So profit up here, we put that number here, 25% on cost. The on-S version, on-S markup and markdown problems will say P, E, or M are percentages on selling price, so we put those numbers up here, and again, that is a different procedure. Okay, we also know that the markdown is 20%, so we go to markdown, and the markdown rate is always a rate on S. So put the 20% there. Okay, so this is all our given so far, but we can use this to gradually fill up all the other boxes to answer the question. And part A asks us to calculate the regular selling price, which is this. And then we'll proceed with the rest in part B and C. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to fill up the P and E boxes here. And we can do that. We can actually fill these boxes with dollar values. But this 114 is actually up here. 14.75, negative 114.75. Let's use that error. Okay. All right. So what we need to do is we need to put a few algebraic expressions and solve them to the side. Okay, we're going to do the P box first. Okay. So since P is 25% on C or of cost, we can translate that algebraically and say P equals 0.25 C, or 25% of cost. So I know what C is from solving the earlier part of the problem. So I simply plug in 0.25, and I plug in C here. That's 114.75. 75. Okay. So I go 114.75 multiplied by 0.25 to equal 28.6875. All right. In this particular problem, every time we fill up a box, we have to round to the second decimal place. That it becomes 28.69. All right, so I'm going to fill up the P box accordingly. 28.69. Okay, now I do the same thing with the E box here, the overhead expense. Okay, so since E is 30% on C or 30% of cost, translate that algebraically. E equals 0.3 C, or 30% of cost. And now I simply just plug in the values. Okay, 0.3 and 114.75. And just the calculator up here. 114.75 multiplied by 0.3. That'll equal 34.425. And again, I round to the second decimal place, so 34.43. Okay. Good. Now I can put this up here in the E box, 34.43. Okay, now I can proceed with filling up the rest of the E box one by one, because all the formulas are actually to the side. For the first one, profit plus overhead expense equals markup. Okay, since I have the dollar values of P and E, I'll simply add these two as suggested by this first column here, right? So get 28.69 plus 34.43 equals 63.12. 63.12. Okay? Right. So now I can still proceed. I can actually solve for the regular selling price right now because I've got the markup and the cost. So I've got the markup already up there. I simply add the cost. 114.75 equals 177.87. And this is the answer for part A. Okay, so A, regular selling price is 177.87. All right, I can continue though, right? So now I need to solve for the markdown, put a dollar value there. Now I know that markdown rate is 20%, and that's always on S. So I make another side equation. So markdown equals 0.2, 20% of S, and simply plug in 0.2, plug in S, which I now know it's 177.87. Okay, that's already up there, so I multiply it by 0.2 to get 35.574. Right, and I round it down to 35.57. All right. All right, so this goes up here, 35.57. Right, now I can calculate the reduced selling price by, and again, it's S minus D. So 177.87 minus 35.57. All right, 177.87 minus 35.57. Get 142.30. All right, so I can continue on. Now, I just have to plug in the negative E here, and I just get the positive E, which is 34.43, and plug that in, but put it in the negative form, negative 34.43. Again, it's just from up here. The E is up here. I've calculated that earlier, down here. Okay, now I can calculate the reduced profit, which is part B of the question. Right? Part B of the question asks us to calculate Tyler's profit or loss at the clearance price. Okay, so now I can enter that, right? So I go 142.3 minus 114.75 minus 34.43 equals negative 6.88, right? So that's part B. Answer is negative $6.88. The answer to part B. Okay, now there's a part C to the question. Part C of the question is as follows. What is the markdown rate that he can offer to sell at the break-even price. Okay, how do we answer that one? All right. So the wait, let's get back. I'll get back to the merchandising calculation table here. Now, the the formula for break even is cost plus overhead expense. Okay, because at break even price we're covering cost and the overhead expense and no profit. So we add these two in their entirety, and we look at the merchandising calculating table, and we know what C and E are. So we just plug those in. Right, so that'll be 114.75. That's E. That's C. And E is 34.43. 34.43. So we add those two up. 114.75 plus 34.43 equals 149.18. That's it. This is the break-even price, right? Okay. Now, to get it asks for the markdown rate. Okay, and markdown rate. This is the formula. Markdown rate is essentially getting the selling price, subtracting the break-even, divide by the selling price, multiply by 100%. Okay, the selling price is 177.87. Get out, subtract the break-even price of 149.18 and divide it by the selling price, 177.87. Okay, so that will equal 177.87 minus 149.18 equals 28.69. 28.69 divided by 177.87 multiplied by 100% equals, let me do that number, we divide that by 177.87 or 0.16129.7, okay, and multiply that by 100% and round to the second decimal place, that will be 16.13. So that's the answer, right? So this is the answer because we're getting the markdown rate, right? We're selling at the break-even price, so we're getting the difference between the selling price and the break-even price, which we do here to get the markdown rate at the break-even price. Okay, so that's how you do a the on C type of questions. On S will be available in the lesson below. Thank you. Hope that's helpful for you.